Yeah. So, I kind of look at you and I think you probably haven't done your hair since like 1985. That it's just like that. It's just that's the way you wake up.
I was born this way.
You
with
put like one of
the
those
mustache.
like helmets on when you go to bed. It just keeps it.
Like a Lego man. Just
Yeah. I just need to check. Are we online?
Oh, we're live, dude. Oh, I see live. It says live.
says live.
Hello.
What's up, Dylan?
I can't, Dylan. I can't handle 5 people online at one time. So Chase, get out.
Oh, yeah. All right. It's all you, buddy. Done with your nap? Okay. You can go play.
Oh, dang. Wad Zombie's in there already? All right.
See, I was like, I'm not gonna look at the comments. I want to be focused in on the podcast. But now you're making me want to look at the comments.
Well, you can start reading them like Savan did for Peter. So
Yeah. I lost track. I lost track of the comments so quickly.
Yeah.
Like so quickly. And actually, Brian had messaged me before I went on. He was like, "Oh, live chat's quite busy."
Mhm.
Thankfully, because I went on, I was like, "Fuck, that's a lot of people."
Dude. Yeah.
But
Bill, did you look at the comments on when you were on Savan's podcast?
Some of the time. I'd like pop in and out. The weird thing with the comments is you start to read them and you start forming reactions to the comments, and then you lost whatever the topic of the conversation is. So you got to be able to bounce back and forth. Or it's great when he has like Matt Souza will be in there and he'll start picking them out.
Oh yeah.
And I mean,
I want to apologize for drinking water like a psychopath right there, but I almost lost my grip on the bottle. I don't normally hold it from the top.
Aggressive. This is the latest. This is the latest I've ever had a cup of coffee. 10:09 p.m.
That's early, dude. What are you talking about? What's the problem there? There's no problem with that.
No, there's no problem with it now.
What will be the problem later?
I'll have a problem in about 2 hours time, and I'm like, maybe I should think about going to bed.
We're gonna bore the shit out of you. You'll be asleep in no time.
Nah, it's like a warm blanket, dude. It's just like a warm blanket.
Two of my favorite comment moments so far on just watching podcasts. One was Jason Hopper on Savan's show, where Savan was asking him, like, he asked him like 3 questions in a row and he never answered. he was just like staring at the screen, and Savan was like, "Is he frozen?" And then he just goes, "Hey, this guy," and he had obviously been reading the comments and just like wasn't listening. And then my consistent favorite is Taylor Self on Savans, who just constantly laughs at he's like reading, and by the time he says it, it's gone like back up, and he's like, "Oh, it doesn't matter," but it's just he's always reactionary. So thank you for taking the time out. We've got Chase, Bill, and Brian Spin. We're going to cover 2022. I had this unique idea of doing like a kind of an awards for the year, and then Talking Leaf Fitness did it before I did it.
I like it.
The fuckers. So I sent you guys a list because I was like, it would be so harsh to just be like, so what was the best thing that happened? And then you'd be caught on the hop being like, oh Jesus, let me think about it. Some of the stuff that happened that I forgot. So like this was a year where Castro was fired.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much stuff that happened this year, dude, that I forgot that it's all in this one
that was
year.
this
a lot.
year?
Yeah,
it was genuinely,
right?
genuinely. I thought like Castro being fired was last year. Like I know, like it doesn't make sense, but like in my head, I was like, "Oh, that wasn't this year," and then I realized it was. So he was fired and hired.
Mm-hmm.
You had HWPO like landing with a thud, that kind of superhero landing. I know Chase. And then like subsequently, Magnus like drawing other athletes in. You had Danielle Brandon leaving Vegas, moving to Florida.
Oh yeah.
You had Chase being cancelled and then not cancelled. Like honestly, though, so much shit. Like a crazy amount of stuff happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried to do it. To put an order on things so that we could, because otherwise, I know the last time Bill and Chase were on, we kind of talked about oh, well, like, let's talk about Wadapalooza. And then we went through like almost like month by month of all the stuff that happened. But I just feel like there was so much stuff that we just get lost in the weeds. But another thing that happened this year, from my perspective anyway, was I discovered barbell spin.
Right. I'm back.
Where,
yeah, bro, you're blowing up again.
That's right.
are you, when you came back, was it a conscious, like, were you like, okay, I'm going to keep doing what I was doing before, or have you totally changed what you were doing compared to what you're doing before? And have you been surprised by how much traction you've gotten?
I mean, basically, I mean, the backstory was, I've been out since early 2020. Just life got in the way, and then COVID hit, and I just kind of took a step back and kind of just sailed off into the distance. And I think it was maybe 2-3 weeks before the games this year, my wife said, "Why don't you think about coming back and starting that thing back up?" I was like,
stop pissing me off around the house.
Yeah, keep trying to get you out of the arm's reach there. Just get away from me. Get away from me.
It was barbell spin or knitting. They were the two options.
That's exactly right. And so I watched the games and got fired up, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to make my comeback. And so really, I'm still taking it day by day as how to best come back to the space. I think it's changed dramatically over the last 2 years, both from the players that are in it as well as how people want to look at content. And so, that's why I'm in front of the camera more. It's why I'm, doing my own podcast, why I'm on this, and why I've been on Savon's occasionally. It's people want to see the personalities rather than just the headlines, and more video content than just reading an article. And so, yeah, it's still in motion, but the basics are still there.
When you said you were fired up watching the games, were you like, oh God, I forgot how much I love this sport, I want to get involved? Or were you like, this coverage is shit, I could do better than this?
I'll say
that was a yes, is what that was. You see him try to tap dance on that one. Yes.
I think some people needed some competition, and
okay.
I think I provide a different spin to how things are done, and the topics that are covered, and felt like I could add to the conversation in a different way that was not out there since I left.
You know what? From an outside perspective, what it seemed like you really did was when HQ dismantled all their media, and we lost that voice. And then it was kind of thrown to the wolves, and it went to the wolves. I mean, like literally all over the place. And then Morning Chalk Up came up, and that kind of became the voice. And then it's almost like they went past what we, the CrossFit public wanted to hear. Started doing all these other things, and they kind of became the voice of that old school CrossFit, which it had a weird spin on it. And then when you hopped in, you do what they were doing. It's like you were talking the things that we wanted to hear. You weren't like, how are you going to make your gym better? And what's the percentage of the, I don't know, the red hairs that do blah, blah. I mean, you were like talking competition and like the big comments, the big things that people were talking about. And then you go and you bring Brian on. I mean, you can't have much more of a stat book than that guy, a guy who is big into that stuff. So you guys are going right down the direction that I think, and I think that's why you guys are blowing up so much, because you're talking the things that we as CrossFitters want to hear, not just the overall overarching CrossFit community also, but like the CrossFit sports side. I mean, that's where you're talking. It's awesome.
That's
awesome.
That's what I wanted to do. I mean, the sport needed it. And I mean, I've been around since 2015 doing my own thing. And I was around before Morning Chalk Up. I was around before Barbell.
Totally.
All those guys. And maybe I just didn't, but just doing it my own. And I think the sport needed that, because, you guys know back in the day, it was, if it didn't come from HQ, it didn't come from anybody.
No. And everyone else that it came from, it was wrong. It was, and no one really listened to them then. It was when the plug got pulled that all of a sudden it was like, well, all right, let me hear what these guys have to say. because you're right. Like I know you've been around, but like it was so far in the dust of what HQ was doing, because HQ, it was a package deal. And you were either in that package or you weren't in that package. And all of a sudden the package was gone. Yeah. So everyone was like looking for the package, and you guys definitely picked up the pieces, which was great.
Yep. So Brian Friend works for Bar Bend. Not Bar.
I wish he'd joined me, but
I thought he was. Oh, that's right. You're right. Yeah. I thought he was writing some articles for you though.
No, that's Peter.
Oh, got it.
Same. We're basically.
I took the JV team.
You know what I mean.
I took the JV team and took what I could get.
Still blowing up.
Thanks for coming back, Chase. So we're recapping 2023 now.
All right, that was fast.
To get with the programming, then that's continued and defined. Yet no, am I joking? That's continued. And one of the things that I've noticed a big shift this year is your kind of change of focus, I guess. So, like, I guess obviously there comes a point where you have to kind of branch out, where like you have to sail into new waters and see what else is out there and stuff. Why did you guys go with the, like that, I guess, real old school, like looking at the journals and that kind of stuff? Like, why did you decide to do that?
Because we're old.
Yeah, there you go. OG actually just stands for old guys. That's
old Grundler, old guys.
I think it was kind of, it's funny is that the way, Brian's talking about his return is that, there was a lot of noise out there and questioning of the direction of where CrossFit's going based off, I would say, the leaders at the top or the lack of leaders at the top. And that's usually just because we had a vacant CEO position for quite some time and other head positions in the company. And, Bill and I have always rooted ourselves in basically how we both got started in CrossFit. And we coach that way. We treat everybody that way in our gym. We treat everybody that way in the community, anyone we run into at the games or any other event we get to go to. And we pull that into our podcast by the way we look at programming, whether it's for just your general physical preparedness classes or what you see at any type of competition. And it was actually Wad Zombie that brought this up. I don't even know. I think we were just talking about the OG shirts that we were making. And he's like, you guys should go through a journal article or start a book club. And it was honestly a no-brainer. And we're just like, I hate people. I don't want to say I hate people.
Just finish there. I hate people.
I hate people. I hate it when people complain for the sake of complaining with no solution provided. Yeah. And for us, it was like, if we're going to say, not to say CrossFit had lost its way, but it was directionless at a certain point of time. And that made us uneasy. It's like, okay, what can we do to help focus the community, steer the ship, or at least look back on where we came from and look forward to where we could possibly go? And that's how the journal stuff started.
Have you plans for more? Like, you're continuing that? You're continuing the programming? What would you call it? Assessments.
Yeah.
Have you other things that you're going to branch out to? Have you other things on the horizon, do you think?
Well, here's what I would say, because the interesting thing about the branching out part has all been completely organic. Like, there was never like a plan of like, hey, you know what, we should go this way, we should push this, we should push that. It was the OG shirt thing started because we were pissed. We were angry about our crew it didn't feel like our crew anymore, and it was behind the scenes banter of me and Chase just talking to ourselves, where I'm like, dude, I want to go back to how it was, where you just wanted to come into the gym and work out, and you had your group, and you look for nanos in the airport, and you knew that you had that, like, that feel. And, I just want to wear a shirt that says like OG. And he's like, I'm going to make one of those for you. I'm like, okay. And so that was just kind of talk. It started there. And then it was like, hey, we could totally do this. And then, all the t-shirt guys that in all the podcast, the Wad Zombies, the Sherpa Works, all those guys, we were watching these shirts that were popping up, and we should totally do that. So it was totally organic. And then the journal thing, totally organic. It was an idea that came from Wad Zombie. And it's like, if we're talking OG, well, then what's OG? And that is OG. That is not a so-and-so said these things and that made us feel bad, or these made us, this was a certain connotation. It was like, screw all that stuff. How do, as a CrossFitter, what do we live by? In the journal articles is where we can, like, that's what spawned the whole thing, or those articles. And so we started talking about it. And literally what's weird is every single time we'll come up to a certain article and, Chase will kind of hype up what we're talking about next. And we'll go into the next one like, this one's going to be stupid.
Yeah.
Because it's just shoulder to overhead.
Page?
Yeah, totally. Or like the muscle-ups. And then we start talking about it. And then as we're talking about it, we get more into it, remembering, and maybe it's a nostalgia thing for us where we remember where we were when we were doing it. And we're bringing this, either the people that also were there, and they're like, oh, that's right, I remember when, or bringing the new people through. And it's like, oh, that's why we do. And so it's bringing that idea back. So I know, I mean, we just, truth be told, we were talking about an idea that we started coming up with last night, and it just kind of hit me, an idea, and you guys will find out about it soon enough here. But anything that is that OG feel, that community feel, not a watered down version of anything, because CrossFit was never watered down. You didn't have to be an elite athlete to do it. You didn't water it down to do it. It was CrossFit. Now, it was different for every person, but there was a methodology, a feeling, a tribalness, a grittiness, and I fucking love that stuff. So if, like, our things that we want to do later are just all that, but that's all coming from programming, because the programming came from the original idea of all that stuff. So it's all connected, which is what I think is really cool. It's not a, we're going that way here and this way here. It's, how do you do this the right way, like our way, our CrossFit way? Yeah. So,
can I guess what the idea is?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. You take a guess.
So if you're talking about like
write it
OG,
down, Chase, ready?
if you're talking about like OG, old school, like what CrossFit was, you mentioned nanos and stuff. I'm guessing like fluorescent knee-high socks.
How did you guess? That's what we were gonna do.
That's funny.
Look, I will congratulate the three of you on your successes. So
Thank you.
The broadcast work, obviously, and then your private work with the programming and everything you do there, and the community that you're building is remarkable. And barbell spin, I think especially during Rogue, I was just floored at the speed at the information that you were able to obtain, and then the speed at which you were able to get it out. Like you essentially had the 1 to 10 in the run at Rogue when a lot of people didn't even know there was a run on.
Yeah,
and I think I
had my spreadsheet, my sources, and I was trying to piece it, because nobody knew. Even the athletes didn't know where they finished. All I knew is that, hey, I finished behind this person, and the person behind me was this. And then I'd talk to somebody, and they'd be like, well, I saw 3 people ahead of me was, and so it was like trying to piece where people were. And that's all anybody wanted to know was,
I really hope you deflated someone somewhere, that they were like, I finished 5th because I was behind. You're like, no, you were 8th.
I did get a couple that said that they thought they were in the middle of the pack and they were closer to the 15th, 16th. Yeah.
You're in the middle of a pack. Just not.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, continued success to the three of you.
Thank you.
And I predicted to someone that I can't remember who it was, that barbell spin will have taken over by the time the Open comes around. So hurry the fuck up, Brian. Start.
See. No pressure.
So we'll start off. We'll start off with competition of the year. So that's the first one that I'm going to do.
Ooh, I like this.
So I kind of, I only thought of this afterwards. I was like, I hope they the games is just, we just can't pick the games. We pick if one of you pick the games, then whatever. But I mean, I kind of thought it was implicit that it's like off-season event. And then I started thinking, like, is Wodapalooza the start? Like, where do you draw the line? So is Wodapalooza the start, like next week or whatever, in 2 weeks? Is that the start of the off-season? And then does that season end with the games? And then does the next season start again?
It's always hard to say, because like, where does Dubai fit in and all that?
That's, is Rogue the end of the season or the start, the first event of the new season? Do you know what I mean?
Wodapalooza is the end of this off season.
Yeah, I would
we're
say
just
that.
doing the show.
It's like the
that's
end
done.
of and the beginning of next game season, like Wadapalooza. Like, all right, off season's over. Everybody get ready for the Open.
Yep.
Okay, well, if someone picked Wadapalooza from 2022, they can include that as the start of the season, because that's what I did, so it's fine. All right, Brian, you can go first on this. What your competition of the year? So if you have a few like nearly like that was close, but I picked this one, and then
I'm actually going to go with a little bit different, maybe the Zalos games, and mainly because it opened up everybody's eyes to something different. It wasn't the actual event itself. No, I think the event was great. The live showcase was awesome to see what could be done with some cell phones and a platform basically like this. I mean, it's the same StreamYard that Savan has. But I think everything before that was, hey, it has to be, got to bring 20, 30 athletes in or more. It has to be at some big location, some huge venue. You've got to have a huge streaming, platform, and, go spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and hope you pay it off. And then now you look at it and it's successful. I think everybody liked watching it. And now you have Wad Zombie and Fit Wars, and you have other people, I think, that are, thinking what could we do maybe next off season or the one after that to give other athletes an opportunity.
Yeah, no, I respect that choice. I think, I'm glad you included Fit Wars in that, because I think the two of them deserve to be mentioned just for the potential that they hold of like changing the game. Of, like you said, you don't have to have this big, like, I'm sure no one will begrudge me saying that both events could be tidied up and could be, like jazzier or whatever, like, but that kind of stuff comes with time.
And it's timing though too. I mean, like, especially with the Fit Wars thing, there was the Rush Nation, the Rush Club, yeah. And they had, they had pyrotechnics, they had all kinds of stuff, but like the timing for something like that, I just don't think was right. Because that could have gone really big, and for any reason it should have gone really big, but it didn't have the power that I think that it can now with people looking for something like that. So
what did you go for, Bill?
Okay, so give me the time frame, like where the year actually starts.
Jan 1, bro.
I'm saying Jan 1, or are we saying December?
No, until now, from a year, like 2022.
Okay. What's the date?
Are you using that? Are you back using your Mayan calendar again?
maybe I am. Because originally I did go the route of the games, because I thought there was a lot to talk about with the games and what it was going to be and all that kind of stuff. So if I can't pick that one, then the one that I want to pick, honestly, and I'm gonna go with it anyway, was the Legends competition, not the one that just happened, but the one that happened in middle of December
2021.
Yes, that one. But it's okay.
Your event pick for 2022 is the Legends from 2021.
Yes, there. And here's what I'm going to say this, and I'll use it as a caveat for the Legends event that happened this year. The Masters have been wanting to have something like that forever and ever and ever, and that was the first one that had broadcast of the entire thing. They had competitive athletes that are all battling. They had games level athletes, like high end. They had Jason Grubbs that was there. So you got to see the best of the best in their age groups competing. And it went off, and it was only Masters. And the difference between that one versus this one was this one. And I was talking to some of the athletes that went to this one, the one that they had up at Mayhem, and they didn't have broadcast for the entire time. There were age groups that some of the age groups got left out of the broadcast. There were you're only allowed to have so many people watching, and if you weren't competing right then, they would bump you out just because of the code enforcement of the number of people that they had in Mayhem. So there were a lot of things that the Masters all wanted to be there for that, and they wanted to showcase that, and they didn't get a chance to have that showcase, I think, the way it was. So it was, great on Rich for bringing it in there, and I think that they did a great job of programming, and we still needed to talk about the events and everything. But knowing that the one that they did in San Diego, yes, last year and last December, like that was the blueprint that was really trying to happen for this particular one. And I think that blueprint is still there. And it just needs to be looked at and be able to be brought back in for the Masters, because I think that they deserve that now. We're getting to the point where those guys deserve to have that competition.
Was your original choice going to be the games?
My original choice was going to be the games, yeah.
Had you any unobvious argument for that?
Because it was the first games of the difference from Dave Castro. And so it was like the quintessential big question mark on what are we going to get. We saw that blend between the Open, the quarterfinals, the semifinals, into the games of who was programming, what was it being programmed, who actually took control of the programming, and then what was the games going to look like. And it was the biggest question mark to me, next to who was going to take Dave's spot, was that competition. All the other competitions are all programmed by other people, and I think we're used to seeing that and being aware of that. But the games was a gigantic, well, now what's it going to look like? And I think that like you cannot short how important and how giant of a question that was going to be. I mean, everybody from the athletes to the spectators to the commentators to the broadcasting to everybody, it was going to be like, what is this going to look like? And are we going to be able to move forward from this? So that was, to me, not competition of the year because it's the games, because yes, that's the games, but the reason, the anticipation for that particular question mark, I think, was gigantic.
Chase?
I would say I'm pulling a little bit on Brian's reasoning, and I'm going to pick Wodapalooza. And the reason is that they finally got a legit broadcast that they've earned for a long time. Now, they didn't put in the money for it previous to that, but they've also been working really hard to make the event what it is today. And the coolest part is a few things. Is one, right off the bat, the team competition that unfolded that weekend, I think completely changed what we're seeing this year in the team competition. It was incredible to watch the Oslo girls go against the Maine girls and what that turned into, and the spectator viewership that centered around the team competition. It's one of the only ones, and it was the only one for a very long time, that did the 3-in-3 thing, 3 men, 3 women, which I love that Wodapalooza gets to do again after not being a sanctioned event anymore, where they were forced to do 2 men, 2 women. Couple that with, I mean, the individual competition was great, but I'm going to bring in the coverage itself and then the external coverage that we got from the Savan podcast during those break times. And I think all encompassing, it was one of the coolest events I got to watch from end to end, even during dead time. Right. The Savan podcast saved Wodapalooza's ass when it was a rain delay, and they were just live during that whole time. And that was really the precursor of what you saw at the Zealous Games. And what we got to see with, Fit Wars is that was their first run to see if this is even doable. And then you saw that replicated a little bit at the CrossFit game. Well, not a lot at the CrossFit Games. And then they just took themselves into their own thing with Zealous. So I think Wodapalooza really set the stage for the entire year of the evolution of coverage we can see in all types of competitions. In all, I think I can't remember who just said this, but I think you did, Peter, was that it could use, the Zealous Games could use a little more flashiness. I disagree. I think there's a great thing of something so raw. I'm like, you could probably get a better internet connection. I'll accept that, right? But, graphics would be cool, but I say this about off-season competitions too. Stop trying to be like the CrossFit Games. We get that already. We get that for 6 to 8 months in a season. Do your own thing. Be edgy, be a little off the cuff, be unprofessional. And I don't mean that in sense of inappropriate. I just mean I love the rawness. And I think the Zealous Game shows that there is a huge sub-market of a lot of people that want to see something not as polished, not as uber professional, and just more of a bunch of people sitting on the couch drinking beers and watching fitness.
When it's not as raw like that, and like what Chips was bringing up, you feel as someone that's watching, you feel way more in the circle than when you're watching like the super polished broadcasts, and then you feel like you're watching the Super Bowl. It's cool and you get all the stuff. That's awesome. But the other one, it's like you feel like you're on a Zoom call with your buddies.
I liken it to, you have Monday Night Football and you have the Manning cast. Both are happening at the same time. And there's a demographic that loves one or the other and some that love both. And I think there's no reason one or the other should be fighting each other what's good and what's bad. You find your thing that you love and you stick with it. And if we can have both of those things side by side, I think that's a wonderful thing for the sport and the community in general. And Wadapalooza was the pioneer for that.
Is that the football with the pointy football? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
No, I think I love. I think Susan said it the other day. He was like, they did 7 hours straight at Wadapalooza. They did like when the Wadapalooza's feed went down and it was only their feed, and they're like, you know, I think deservedly their numbers went through the roof. But I think my point to Zalos or Fit Wars isn't to have like, you know, fucking Sean and Tommy standing there with mics, and I don't mean that kind of polish. I just mean like a really good camera crew.
Yeah, right. And I'm agreeing with you there.
Covering it in the way that fans wanted to be covered as well. Not that shit of like, here's someone on a skier for 5 minutes and you don't know what's going on.
Right.
Like cover it in the right way, but just have it a bit less like choppy, jerky. That's all I meant by polished. It'll still be a turd. It's just a polished one.
But I think the draw is like, how do we make this better? And it's like, don't do more to make it better. Just have better quality of what you're currently doing, because the games has the ticker and the graphics and all these leaderboards. Like if you're going to do that, then you better do it all the way, because when you half do it, it actually makes the production look worse. It looks like you're trying to do something and failing at it. I like, with you. Better interconnection, good cameras, and then just do what you just did and have just a nice, clear picture for everyone to speak about. I think that'd be awesome. Nothing more.
Yeah, Wadapalooza was in my head as well. I think part of that, like I really enjoyed watching it and stuff. The time difference is good for me, like 5 hours, manageable. Like that's one of the, like from my perspective, that's one of the drawbacks of the games Rogue. Like that's like a pitfall for me. And then, but that's like, you know, me just being selfish. But outside of that, I really enjoyed Strength and Depth. So it was one of the European semifinals. And I think like when I think of events, when I think of like competitions, I think of like iconic kind of moments or like things that you're not likely to forget. I think like Sam Briggs's retirement and her, like that photo, it was an Irish girl, Anya took that photo of her shoe on the floor, and like that stuff will just like, that'll always be in my head when I think of Strength and Depth. And I think as well as an event, it was like 9 times out of 10, and I know this is going to like break both of your hearts, but 9 times out of 10, I don't really give a fuck what the programming is like. Like once it's exciting and once it's like close and it's hard to call and you don't know who, like anyone in the top 8 could finish in the top 4. That's what I want as a fan when I'm looking at an event. And I think I got that at Strength and Depth, where it was like, it was close, bar like say like 1 or 2 people who was like, even before the event started, you're like, yeah, they're probably getting in. But like it was close throughout, where there was a lot of movement. There was no real wheelhousey type workouts that, you know, someone was obviously just going to dominate. I think like as well, I was there, and that probably plays a part, like biases it a bit. But also there was a couple of guys like Michael Dalton and Richard Bloomer were there, and they had been at a lot of ones in the States, and they were like, it's fucking loud here. Like they were like, this is like what I think they want it to be like in the States, and they just can't replicate it. Whereas I think in Europe, you have that buy-in of, you know, if you've got a UK athlete or an Irish athlete or whatever, the whole crowd wants them to do well, because it's like they're kind of ours, you know, like they'll take it. Whereas in the States, if you have someone competing in Tennessee from fucking Boston, nobody gives a shit, because it's geographically it's so far away that it's just there's no ownership there. So yeah, I'm going for Strength and Depth. I think. All right, event of the year then. So by event I mean like workout.
Ooh.
So everything's on the table here. You can have, sorry, what does Will say? Mainstream sports going the same direction with alternate cast, Manning cast, also Pat McAfee, including on field. Okay, yeah.
This is too American for Peter.
Something football. Okay. Event of the year. So we'll go in reverse order. I'll go first this time. We'll go back around to Brian. I'm going clockwise, anti-clockwise based on my screen. I don't know if your screens are the same, but anyway, if it's not, that's my logic. It's not just random. Right. So I had two in my head. I know someone's going to pick the other one. So I'll go for the Burj. So in Dubai, and I actually
good call.
I saw it. I saw the workout teased. I saw Fraser like testing the workout. I saw the workout teased. I've spoken to him about it, name drop, and I've spoken to Moritz Fiebig about it as well. And I think one thing that I didn't consider at all was just the mental torture of just looking at concrete walls. And then he was like, every few floors you had to walk to a different stairs and then just go again. And I like the harshness of just staring at concrete and like short stairs, like short flights of stairs. So you're just turning constantly. And then Fraser was saying as well that like they never stood up. Like the fatigue would just dissipate after the event was over because they never actually like did the full extension and full contraction of the muscle over and over again. It was just, they were kind of like hunched nearly. And I never thought about that aspect, but the mental side of it, just like, I was like, God, I really never, because I was like, oh, what was that like? It must have been hard, whatever. He was like, oh man, mentally it was so awful. Like he was like, you just stare at concrete floors. And then the other thing that I hadn't, I remember seeing like, saying, oh, they're taking their headphones off them and their phones or whatever. And I was like, that's stupid. Like, you're not like, I couldn't imagine Fikowski like popping in headphones and like, running up the stairs to fucking ABBA or whatever. But then I thought about it as like, even if you weren't planning on doing that, the fact that the option is taken away from you strips you of a little bit of like independence, a little bit of choice, a little bit of like mental freedom. It just adds something to it, even though it's kind of an inane thing to do. It still fucks with your head a little bit, that it's like, even if I wanted to, I can't listen to anything. I just have to listen by my breath and Can Porter running behind me. Like, it's but yeah, and I think just for the spectacle and the kind of all the work they had to do to make it happen, like that they had to jump through so many hoops to get it done and stuff. I think that that'll stand out as being pretty epic. I'm feeling dead air here now because Chase is next, but he's...
Hey, I know, I'm ready.
Okay, right, go.
Yeah, I got the little one next to me.
You can go.
I feel like when I say this one, I'm taking the easy road out. But someone's got to pick him, and I'm going to, because I got to go second. And it's the Capitol. I think it's the easy choice to make, but not because the spectator viewership. You saying hi, buddy? Or he just likes to. The problem is that he is my son, because if he sees himself in a camera, that's all he wants to look at.
I'm glad it's himself he was looking at, because the first time it's just his eye showing, and I was like, that is a homicidal stare. So I'm glad it was like he had just noticed himself.
That's him. But the Capitol, and for all the reasons and I said this on the Miles to Madison interview, is that the Capitol was hyped up beyond any event I think I have ever been a part of leading up to the CrossFit Games. That and another one. If somebody else picks it, I'll let you go with that one. But the biggest problem with anything, whether it's athletes, events, or competitions, is that if there's hype, to meet that hype is rarely ever a thing. What's up? Yep. Goodbye. Rarely ever a thing, right?
That kid loves playing fetch.
It's almost impossible, because we have this picture in our head of what it's going to look like, and we knew what the event was going in. It's like, yeah, they're going to do some pig flips, they're going to run all around, they're going to run up to the Capitol. I was like, man, that's got to look so cool. And they're carrying sandbags, and then they're carrying them up the steps. It's like, yeah, that sounds pretty cool. Like, it's going to be epic. I'm like, I'm sure. And then it happened, and this is where I love CrossFit Games, is that the athletes paint the picture beyond anything you could have comprehended it to be. And that's what's special. And you talked about, how we obsess with programming. If the programming does its job, we should never talk about the programming. We should talk about what happened in the event. And the programming was so damn perfect with the conditions of the weather, with the conditions of the athletes, and then the way it all set up with the crowd at the end and going up the steps and the camera angles, is that the athletes made the Capitol what it was, not the other way around. Rarely do we ever talk about the elements of the event, ever. We just say Capitol. And I think because of what the athlete did with that event made it so special, coupled with, I think, along this lines of, like Bill and I talking about the OG and just rallying the CrossFit community back towards center, is that I saw that on display for the first time I haven't seen since 2018. Bill, do you agree?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah, because there's so many people following and just were fired up on the whole thing.
Since really the reshuffle of the whole season system since 2018, I haven't seen that back until the Capitol at the very end. And that's why it was so special to me.
Yeah, that was my alternate, and I was like, someone's definitely going to pick that.
Yeah.
So, that was epic, I think, in fairness. And like, you can't legislate for, like, no matter how much you plan an event, you can't be like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if there was one person left?
Right? They probably just like slipped her 100. It's like, hey, listen, if you get last, I will pay you $100.
Yeah, we've got Rogue. I've got a whole new setup for your gym. All you have to do.
But if you think about it, it's like,
logo is facing out.
Take any event we all pick, and there's probably someone who's like, that event sucked.
Yeah.
Like, you get like whatever we pick, there's going to be a group that is like, no, that was dumb. Like, I haven't heard that. Other than someone just being an asshole for asshole's sake. Like, I haven't heard anybody have an alternative opinion of the Capitol.
I think one of my favorite things about the Capitol as well was there was a few shots of Janikowski and Fikowski running, and there's others as well. But they're doing that like at the cycle track almost along the lane.
Yeah.
And I just love the fact that there was just like some guy with like headphones in, just like jogging along, like unaware that there was this huge event.
Who
going
are these
past
people?
Them. Yeah,
he's all here for me.
Dudes are like
waving at everybody.
Yeah, like that guy's pretty ripped. And then like, geez, that guy's even more ripped. And it's like, are they all wearing the same uniform? Right, Bill.
I had two also, and I'll choose this other one using Chase's words of epic and the epic greatness of the Capitol. Mine is going to be, I think that this was probably the most epic, like, oh shit, did that really happen at the CrossFit Games event? And it's the bike to work event.
Ooh.
Because there were all these questions about, like, okay, so we have everyone out there, they're biking, they're, Chase and Sean are talking about, what you do, how you're gripping the bike when you're riding, and what's that going to do for the toes to bar and the pull-ups, and what are you going to do? And you're watching the laps go around, and then all of a sudden you see Panchik coming in, and you're like, wait. And then Chase is like, no. That's not right. And I'm standing back. I'm watching this because the Masters hadn't started yet. So I'm watching this and I go, oh shit, he actually just said that. It's like, man, it's all falling apart. And so just to watch that unfold of what was going down, and it was amazing. I mean, because they had everybody going at the same time, you had the men that were messing up. You had the women that were messing up doing extra. Who was the athlete? She actually did an extra lap.
Oh, yes. Was it Sanahua?
Yes. Yeah.
We did 6 laps instead of 5.
Yeah. So, here you are. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. They traded that
I
one.
got you. I did 6.
Yeah.
So
between the two of us.
So where Chase was talking about how, if the program is done correctly, then we shouldn't be talking about that. We should be talking. The athletes should present the show. Now here we are. The athletes are presenting the show, but they don't have anyone to help them either. So it goes, and it kind of goes right back to the Burj climb. You get into a place where you can't. It's just the voice in your head. And when you have a lot of time to think about the voice in your head, like, you couldn't mess up the Burj because all you have to do is go until you can't go anymore. Like, you don't have to count. Well, shoot, what number am I on? Is this flight 73 or is it like, am I at 63? I don't remember. Whereas everyone on the bike, they were forced to have to count. And granted, 5's not a big number, and we know that. But, there's a lot of thinking that's going as you are racing and thinking, okay, how tired am I? Can I get that person? Do I need to stay behind? Oh, dang, my shoe's untied, or I did the gear wrong, or all of these things. And then you're like, was that 4 or was that 5?
Yeah, you talk yourself into it.
Right. And then there's no one to tell you if it is 4 or 5. So you come off, you're like, well, I hope so. So I think that granted that was a tough spot for the games, but that's the first time that there's ever been an event that it went down like that. And here it was. I mean, again, it was the big question mark year. What's going to happen? It's the very first event. We're already on rain delays. We're trying to get in there, trying to see what's going to happen. And then, nope, that's not right. And it was like, oh man, oh, come on. We got to get out of this hole somehow. So the CrossFit Games itself with that event was like the Pat Vellner or the Jason Kalipa, where like you dug yourself into a hole on event number 1, and then you had to kind of pull yourself out. Like, thank God for the Capital, because like once the Capital happened, everybody forgot about the bike event. Like that was out. So that got us out. But it was, we definitely put ourselves in a hole with that event. But I was like, dang, I can't believe this is going on. I think that was an epic start, like we've never seen before in the CrossFit Games history anyway.
Dude, the fighting that went on in the media truck with all the broadcast team and media team about like who cheated or not.
Oh, in the fucking comments, it was like, here we go, Ricky Gerard, first year back, he cheats. And it's like, how is that what you're taking away from what just happened?
Exactly.
Like for an hour and a half, we were just like at each other's throats in the back, like everyone's opinion of what happened. It was wild. But they got it right though. In the end, they got it right.
Brian,
good thing is I had
fucking Bike to Work was not one that I thought anyone would pick for but well, that's the wild card played anyway.
So I had 2 more on my list. I have one that I'll talk about later. But Heavy Grace at the Rogue, mainly because of the finish. I mean, to come down to the last 5 reps, the money bar, and have Vellner reps short, and have that you know that feeling when you do your own workout and you just feel muscle fatigue and you're not sure if you're going to get it. And obviously we don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars on the line, but
well, and that's one of those things where it's like, could you lift this one more time if someone had a gun to your head or was going to give you $80,000?
Yeah.
And that you realize that, wow, there actually is a no to that answer.
Right.
Damn it.
Yeah. I mean, that was to have it that close. I mean, you talk about, you don't care about the programming, Peter. It's as long as it's close, and that had both. Right. I mean, it was an awesome event to finish that up, and to have, to see somebody stretch to the absolute limit, and unfortunately in Vellner's case come up short, but to have all, to have Medeiros and Chandler and Adler, all those guys were all right there fighting into it. So it was awesome.
In one of Justin's home videos, I assume you mean vlogs, not like his dad's camera. He has the money bar. He said it's a very important bar. Just ask Pat.
Oh damn!
They're good friends though. They always.
There's a curse in the Canadians this off season. The last rep.
Yeah, I think like one of the things about sport that you kind of don't often get with CrossFit is, the couch like expert, the like where you're watching.
That's all I am now.
Like I watch football like with the round ball, like the World Cup, and I'm like, I find myself constantly being like, "Oh, you fucking idiot! How could you not give it a pinpoint accurate
How do you
cross?
Kick it over the goal? Look at the size of that.
I'm like looking at bird's eye view of the pitch, being like, why didn't you pass to that guy over there? He's got acres of space. Like not a fucking chance I'd be able to do it. But like that Heavy Grace is one of the few times this year where I was like standing up, shouting, being like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Like you just get that like adrenaline rush yourself watching someone else, and you just like willing them to succeed, but knowing that they just can't do it. That's a decent choice. That's a decent choice. Okay, Coach of the Year.
Oh, we skipped some. All right.
Yeah, I don't know why I did that. I just kind of thought maybe those others would be better at the end. So
good.
coach of the year.
Ooh.
And we're starting with Brian again. We're going back around in reverse order. Actually, sorry. There's a good. That's one that I thought of as well. Rinse and repeat. I think that was cool.
That's a
That
good
they
one.
all.
I had that on there.
Boz said that on my show, Name Drop, where he said that there'd be one. I need to get like a clang sound effect. He said there'd be one workout that everyone could do. Like like he said there'd be one workout that everyone would do, and I thought he meant like us, as in like watchers at home. And he was like, well, in theory, yeah. And like, he was right. I mean, I probably would drown, but I could attempt it. But yeah, no, I think that was good as well. It was like, it's always nice to see someone like Lucy Campbell doing well. Okay. Sorry, Brian.
I do wish though that rinse and repeat would have been a true death by. Instead of the last 2 rounds, like making a fight to the end and have one guy last stand, one person last standing would have been awesome.
Like pushing each other under the water.
Yeah.
No lanes.
Best coach. I would say it's actually Matt Torres and what he did with Danielle in the limited time at the games. Did a little name drop. I had them both on my podcast earlier, but to have somebody like Danielle who has so much focus on her, and people criticize, her attitude or mental space, and to work with her and go to the first competition together and have her, finish where she did, and, pretty much keep her head on her shoulders the whole time for the most part. I think speaks a lot to what Matt was able to do and work with. Cause I mean, she could have easily, imploded, having a different coach there and not knowing how he was going to react, how she was going to react. But to have that finish in a new environment, I think is well done by him.
Yeah. I actually have him written down as a bar none 2023 coach. I think there's something big coming from Brute. I think, I think like Barn, like I don't see anybody else getting close to what he's going to do this coming year, I think. Bill. Is Bill short for William, or is it just Bill?
No, it's William officially on my driver's license. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go on, William.
Oh, Willie G. Willie G. I honestly, I'm going to say Justin Kotler. And the reason I say Justin Kotler is because I haven't seen anyone like come onto the scene, like explode the way that he exploded. And I mean, he had Carrie and she was basically his athlete, and she did some good work with him, and then the magnet in one fell swoop where people were going to train with him in his stable, and moving out to Vegas and taking care of all that, and having their just their programming in general. I mean, he's got all of his games athletes, granted, and I think that what is unique with what he is willing and able to offer is something that most coaches don't offer. I think a lot of the coaches, there's more of a collegiate type of feel, which is I'm here for a business, and you take a good athlete and you're good because you're already a good athlete, kind of a thing. But what he does is he's able to really facilitate that coach athlete relationship. I mean, I see that dude way more sensitive on at times than I have ever seen any other coach be, and maybe don't need to be, but you just don't see that in this competitive space. Either it's a lot of mantras type stuff with like Ben Bergeron, or Rich, where his coaching style is like running alongside of you, not coaching you, but it's like, you're going to do this with me, and if you want to do it, cool, and if you don't want to do it, well, okay, just work harder if you want to be on the team. Or even like with Matt, I think that like Matt is a great athlete and probably the best training partner you can have. But to say that he's the greatest coach right now, I think I'm not saying he doesn't have good athletes working with him, and HWPO is doing great, but like, I don't see him as the master coach yet. But I see Justin as doing something different with his athletes, in the fact that there is a true relationship, and he doesn't just want them to succeed, but he wants them to be the best athlete and person that they're able to be. And usually when you're in that best person setup, that flow state allows you to compete and be the type of athlete you want to be. So it's really interesting watching him compared to a lot of the other coaches that are out there.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll accept it. He's a nice guy too, which doesn't hurt.
No, he's a super nice guy. He's got a great singing voice.
Yes, he does.
Okay, Chase.
Collar's a good call. I mean, and what he did with the gamble he took on himself with Ricky.
Yeah.
I mean,
because of that was all because of this show. Just saying it.
Yeah, that's right. So props to manage that whole situation end to end, basically taking Ricky when nobody else would. I had a lot of respect for Justin for putting his name, reputation, and brand on the line. I
also wonder if someone else had taken him, would it have resulted in not even competitive success, but like community reaction? I don't know if the reaction would have been the same. I think Justin and the underdogs take him on added an element of like not sympathy or like just kind of an extra element of like, oh, okay then, like for a lot of people, I think.
I agree, and I mean just the name itself, who Justin is. I mean, that guy has been through a life ringer of his own, so he empathizes with that position and second chances. And like you said, Billy, he is a very empathetic coach. And watch any video where he talks about his athletes. It's clear as day how much that guy cares.
I think you guys battle who's going to cry more between you and him.
Yeah,
who's going to get more teary?
Okay, so without picking, damn it. I'll leave this one up. I'm going to double down on Kotler. I'll leave this one up. If nobody takes him, I'd like to circle back and at least give this guy props. But I'll double down with Kotler just because of, part of it is the situation that you're talking about, Brian, and the Daniel Brandon. It's like, listen, the way he had to manage that situation was not easy, and to keep everything together during that time, a tumultuous separation. I think they both handled it fairly well, some better than others, maybe. But the way Justin handled it for his crew, externally and internally, is very, very hard to do, because now it's not all eyes are on you because of the Ricky Garrard splash, or you had 3 women on the podium at West Coast Classic the year before, but like you lose Beth Shadburn, you lose Carrie Pierce, you lose Daniel Brandon, you lost all these people, and yet you kept everything together. And what you still were able to do at the games, and especially what he did with Ricky all year long. I mean, that is a tough task, regardless of anyone's fitness level. It's so beyond that, right? And that's the coach, right? That's where the coach mentor comes into play, because you can have the most gifted athlete in the world and they'll just do their job for you.
Right.
But what he was able to do with all of that drama and press and expectations, we throw that word out again, I think he handled it very, very well.
Okay, I'm going for a duo. So I'm going for Jake Marconi and Matt Fraser. I think Hopper's improvement from 2021 to 2022 is like ridiculous. I think the change, like the shift in mentality and ability over 12 months of a guy who's like head down, like defeated on the field in Madison in 2021, like had like in a good few workouts looked like he just checked out and was just like, fuck this, I hate this. And then to see him coming back and the improvements that he made with his finishes in workouts, like in events and in the overall season, I just think that was really impressive. And I know that Jake like predominantly works with him, apart from I think Matt works with him like at events or if he's in town and stuff. And then I think Mal, same. I think the improvement now, the thing with Mal is it's easy to argue like, oh, well, she probably was just on that incline anyway and would have,
Right.
like would she have done as well anyway? But I still think there's very few people that would be able to help Mal manage the pressure and the expectation and all the just constant chatter of like for whatever 5-6 years, Matt Fraser was probably the most talked about, male athlete, barring like, a few, like Ricky Gerard for a few months, and like other bits like that. But like most consistently talked about, like, oh, will he do it again? Like coming into it was either will he do it again, or well, he's obviously going to do it again. So he knows how to handle both of those scenarios. And then you've got this like child essentially who has the same chatter being talked about her, where it was basically like, well, I mean, if Tia wasn't there, Mal would win it. And like she has to manage that going into events, and if something goes wrong, she has to deal with it. And I think, like him working with her, I'm not sure there's many other people who would be able to help her to navigate that kind of just like shitstorm basically of constant pressure, like I was watching Clydesdale yesterday, and he was talking about how we keep seeing the same like 5 or 6 people in stories from HQ, like in the games media and stuff. And like she's one of them. Like there's a post about her on the games page every few days. And like that can't be easy to handle. It can't be easy to just be like, that's fine. Like that's just a whole community looking at me. So yeah, I think the two of those guys, I think they deserve a mention. I would ask Chase who the other person who's talking about, but he's gone again.
Now you think about with Tia being out. I mean, Mal is thrust even more into the spotlight.
Yeah, it's going to be worse. Yeah,
and it's I'm guilty of it too. It's like, well, Mal is now the one to watch, but I mean, there's so many others that are there, but Mal just gets all the attention.
Well, and I think I was going to ask you before you finished about that. It's like, okay, what do you think with Hopper and with Mal? Like, what do you think Matt and Jake bring to those guys? Because as a coach, I mean, all these athletes are great athletes. What's interesting to me is watching what athlete can thrive with whatever coach and why. Not just so-and-so's they're a great athlete, so now automatically they're going to be able to give you all the great stuff to go, and you're automatically going to win. Although I do think that some athletes, if they know they have the best CrossFitter ever that they get to do workouts with or get workouts from, there's automatically like I'm extra cool already. I put chalk on my hands, so I'm going to get a 10-pound PR just because Matt wrote this workout for me, or I talked to Matt today and he's going to get me to do whatever. So you instantly feel extra, you know what I mean? Whereas some athletes don't need that. And it's really interesting when you hear, what does Haley Adams need? Okay, she's not leaving Rich's camp, but they decided, okay, you're going to actually get a coach because you want someone to be on you, to look at you, to watch you, to talk to you, to quote unquote coach you. And then, like with Danielle, it's like, was she not getting, what wasn't she getting from Justin that she now is getting from Marconi or Matt? Yeah. Like what that difference, I mean, like that, I always think that that's so interesting to watch, because some of the people, it's like, is Mal better because it's Matt, or is doing like what you're saying, like Mal, there's no one that knows the pressure that Mal's dealing with other than someone like Matt, because he's been in that same place. So I think that that's really cool. That I don't think that Coach of the Year necessarily means has the most winningest athletes. No, per se. There's a lot of other things in there.
I don't think it does.
Yeah.
And I think as well, like you look at it's great for Mal because Matt's there and he's able to tell her how to deal with pressure or guide her or whatever. And there's that kind of, like dad or big brother kind of vibe to it. But then the flip side of that is, as soon as he was photographed with Jason Hopper the year before, that pressure was heaped onto him with honestly, like fuck all basis. Like he came for most
Dave Castro's fault.
He came out of nowhere for most people, myself included. He did really well at fucking Mac. I was trying to do a sword there. Mac did really well there, and then suddenly it was like, oh well, he's obviously going to win the games this year. Do you know? Like it's like, well, Fraser's not there. It's obviously going to be Hopper because he took a picture with Fraser.
Yeah.
So the pressure can come from like all different angles. But yeah, no, it is interesting, and I definitely agree that I don't think Coach of the Year necessarily, like it'd be very easy to just pick Shane Orr every year or pick like Neefer every year now. Like it'd be very easy to just do that. But I think that there are those elements of like you guys picking Kotler makes total sense to me. Like it doesn't surprise me at all, because of what he's built as well as the things his athletes have achieved, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it is interesting. It'd be interesting to see what happens. And then you know, you've also got other elements like Nick mentions here about JR probably having a pretty big impact on Hopper as well. And you've got all those extra things. I just think you talk about what Justin has kept together. And I think what Matt and Jake and the others have built with HWPO, you know, it speaks back to Matt himself when he was training, and it was like, well, I don't know fuck all about running, so I'm going to bring in a running coach. Or I don't know much about this, so I'm going to bring in, and like now they're doing that with HWPO, and they're, you know, he's talking about, you know, building a facility, like a larger facility and all that kind of stuff. And I just think, yeah, there's, you know, it's hard to argue against any of the people that we've mentioned, really. Chase, who is the person that you didn't say?
Knifer.
Yeah.
Just,
I mean, who else is going to get their hair cut like their athlete, right?
Right. Not just that, but the consistency he's shown all the way from back in 2020 with Justin. And then Justin get his first win, doubled down at Rogue, won again, re-win it. Like his consistency in keeping Justin just kind of, you know, letting Justin be Justin, but still, I just think he's an underrated coach in general. And one of the more underrated athletes in the sport, like in the history of the sport.
Speaking of underrated coaches, Yami from the training plan.
Yeah.
You know,
been around forever.
Janikowski, and, you know, there's lots of people that he's working with that. Yeah. No, you could make a pretty long list. And the worst part is when you talk to these people, you're like, oh, fuck, they're nice too. You know, like you're like, you want some of them to be assholes so you can root for more, like some over others. You're like, oh, that guy's nice as well.
Where's Rudy when you need him? Shit on someone.
But even like you talk about Yami, like when I think of him, I mean, yeah, he's great with his athletes, but I see what he can bring is he was the European Kelly Starrett, so he's going to get athletes to move better. And if they move better, then they can be more efficient, and then they get more power and they get more strength. So you're going to have this, you know, cascading effect of success built on that. So it's really interesting to see, like, okay, well, as an athlete, what do I need? Where are my holes, and what coach is going to be able to fill those holes? You know, I thought it was really interesting when you know, Ben Bergeron was losing all of his athletes, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, you know, he's terrible, he's a bad coach, he's this and he's that. And it's like, well, no, he's not a bad coach, but maybe now, and he even said it, like, okay, they need something else now. And that's just that's the nature of the business. It's like once you've advanced or fixed whatever things you needed to fix with this one specialist or this one, you know, person that has that, then you go to the next hole. And can that person fix it? Cool. If they can't, all right, well, I need someone that can fix that if I want more out of me as an athlete.
And one thing I've noticed is since I've come back is the focus on who the coach is has just been amplified.
Yeah, huge.
You know, it never was a thing 5 years ago, ever.
Yeah.
Like, oh, so sure, somebody's working with so-and-so, but that's it. And now, I mean, the rumor mill around Haley, I mean, that was everything for a couple months. I mean, that was never talked about. So it's just a different environment of so much focus is on the coaches. They've been brought into the spotlight a lot more.
I actually think Yami probably deserves a mention just for the turnaround he's had with Can Porter, who is like a serial, like, oh, if he just applied himself, like, what could he possibly? And like now he is doing it. Okay, so we'll go best male performance, and we're starting with
you.
Is it me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Back
Okay.
to you.
All right. I'm going Nick Matthew. I think for a guy who wasn't meant to be there, who missed out at semifinals and got in like late, had pretty late notice, a bit of a scramble, ended up going up. He like traveled up to Nashville and trained with the Proven Crew for their like that was his first real exposure to that kind of environment. And like, fucking hell, it's a pretty crazy environment he's thrown into. And then the like double under crossovers, like if it wasn't for him, that event was a hard watch, but if it wasn't for him, it would have been just a waste of everyone's time. And he made it, like, it was worth it. I felt immediately afterwards, I was like, watching the whole way through, myself and my wife were like, oh my God, this is fucking awful. If anyone turns this on, like, if anyone turns this on, if this is the first thing they see, they're never watching again. They'll be like, right, well, I'm going to do fucking what's the biking thing? Peloton? No, what is it?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Peloton. He's like, fuck CrossFit, I'm going to do Peloton. These guys can't even skip. But watching him finish it, like watching him get through, was like, okay, worth it. It was worth everything just for that moment. And then the same with the tie break, or the, you know, the like to the millisecond tie with Guy. I just think his performances, I just like, and he's such a nice guy, like such a nice guy. So humble, and you know, I think there's something decent coming from him this year as well. But yeah, no, I was very impressed with him. Chase.
Oh, me. I'm gonna go with a guy I hyped up for most of the year who didn't make me look stupid. Was Jeff Adler
Nice.
at Atlas Games.
Nice.
And the holes he fit, like
whole season.
I predicted him top 5 at the CrossFit Games. He got 5th, and that was partly due to his evolution since 2020. And the holes that he had going into that live competition that he just were exposed in a small form, right? You're the only 5 people on screen. We can see exactly what you're doing right and exactly what you're doing wrong. And the fact that he took the time. How about Caroline Lambre, by the way, as a very underappreciated coach in the space?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Right?
Yeah, very
Right?
true.
And what they have done and worked on over the last 2 years, and to see it pay off at Atlas Games, coming out for the win there, and then his top 5 finish at the games. I think Jeff Adler this season is one of those big performances that not many people really gave a lot of fanfare to. Right? There's a lot of athletes we'll talk about that
he never gets it.
Never,
he never
right?
gets
But
it.
it's also his personality, and he's not looking for it.
Yeah,
That's not
it's almost like he's from Europe, to be honest. Like,
yeah, you know, in a especially coming out of Canada, when you have the Pat Vellners and the Brent Fikowskis all out there, it's Adler for me this year was
that's a good choice. Good choice.
Was mine.
That's a good one. Who's that? Was it me?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with someone that I have been not accepting of the hype for a long time, but was thoroughly surprised in a good way. Like I really enjoyed his entire year. Roman Krenikov.
Yeah.
I have heard, I feel like he has been one of the most overhyped athletes around. Like everyone talks about, he's the guy. I mean, I saw him in Dubai and watch what he could do on the machines. But I still didn't ever see him. Like he didn't wow me that much. I was like, okay, yeah, the guy's good on machines. Cool, whatever. Watching what he had to go through this year just to be able to compete, still being able to, I mean, you know, missing the games twice because of all the visa stuff, not being able to do this, not being able to travel, gets here and then gets to the games. And I was literally blown away. I'm like, wow, like he is as good as everyone is talking about him being, or at least he performed to the hype that everyone was giving him. And I mean, I don't know if we're going to get to the specific event, but like the best female performance in an event, like when I was thinking about it, was the rinse and repeat. Like he won the swim, and I was not expecting him to win the swim event. Now, granted, there was a machine in there. There was a skier. Again, the guy, just anything with a cable, the guy just like beats down on. But I like that was a very like, oh dang, yeah, shit, dude. All right, I'll put you up on that shelf where everyone is wanting to put you. And I thought he just had an amazing year. And it was like a long time to get there. Like the patience paid off. You know, he didn't stop, just kept doing his thing, and man, he was right in there. Awesome.
It's funny you mentioned rinse and repeat, because I feel like he's probably one of the only athletes in the male field who would actually be willing to drown. Like, just
yeah, like totally, right?
He would gladly drown in that pool if it meant like, oh, and he's dead, but he won the event. Right, Brian.
I'm going with Will Morad at Syndicate Crown.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So,
speaking of being dead,
I mean, I know Will more than some of these. You know, I'm not great friends with him, but he's from Nashville, where I'm from. I've talked to him quite a bit and done some things with him. But I mean, his wife Cass, was just cleared from cancer. I think maybe a month or two ago. I mean, she's been battling this for the last couple of years, and I know it put a lot of pressure on him. And to come in and that last event, King Kong 2.0, and come from 8th to 5th, at the expense of James Sprague, but it would have been so easy to come into that last event and say, I gave it my all. My wife needs me. I'm just going to, try, but, to give out an effort to get first place in that, to give himself a shot. I think
what was it, like 81 points or something?
I was going to say, it's like 8th to 5th doesn't make it sound
it was
80 1 point deficit.
I can't remember the number of points.
I think it was 80. I think it was 80,
something.
and he earned 81. He cleared 81.
So
it's fucking ridiculous.
In an event.
Give me a break.
Yeah.
Like, not even nobody was talking. Like, it's not as if, I don't think there's any. I remember seeing a video the other day about someone saying that Tia was pregnant while watching the games. Nobody made a video during semifinals being like, I bet Will Morad comes back. Like, nobody, even as a joke, nobody was saying it. Like, that's a fucking solid pick.
Yeah.
Right, Brian, you can roll us back up there with best female performance.
I'm going to the game with Jacqueline Dahlstrom.
Damn it.
Sandbag. That was amazing. I mean, watching that with my family. My wife loved watching her lift that bag. I mean, it was freaking bigger than her. And for her to battle that thing time in and time out and just keep getting it on the shoulder and watching these other quote unquote stronger, bigger women fail. I mean, that was awesome.
That is the epitome of determination. Like, watching, it was incredible to watch that.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of tension, time under tension of getting that thing up there. I mean, she's just kind of worming that thing up.
But even you can see, like, you can see the first, when she lifted up first, you can see her face being like, uh-oh. Like, most people are just getting to their knees and be like, nah, fuck it, and drop it. Like, right. Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah. Right, Bill.
God, I was gonna go with Jackie too.
That's what I have.
I mean, because you just can't.
I have a backup though. So.
I'll take a backup. I'll take it out. Well, I hope I don't know if I will.
I hope this is Chase's backup.
I'll go with. Let me find my backup here. I'm gonna go with Laura Horvath in the alpaca.
Okay.
We good?
We're good.
We good.
We're still friends. We're still friends.
I mean, watching Jackie do what Jackie did was unreal. But what was fun to see with Laura Horvath, I think, this year especially, was, when you come in and take a second place at the games, your rookie year, there's a lot of hype on you, and then you can just kind of play, and you're doing all these great things, and your expected trajectory is much more difficult when you're already at the top. And so, she could have very easily been beaten down and knocked out of kind of contention and just been like a 10th, 15th kind of athlete and would have just kind of been in there. But, I think working with Ben has done a lot with her as far as keeping her head in the right place and pushing. It was really interesting sitting with Ben at the games for a couple of the events and talking to him as she was performing. And even, I mean, I was up where you guys were, Chase, when you guys were talking, so I was right behind that. And Laura would look all the way up to where we were, and they had connection. So you can see she's extremely focused. And, again, granted, we always talk about the deficit handstand stuff. I mean, I think that's going to be something that plagues her for a while. It's never going to be a strength, obviously, but damn, she looked good this year. And she still does. I mean, you watch her in Rogue and watch what she was doing in Rogue. Like, she is a badass athlete.
She's going to win. She's going to win the games next year, I think.
I mean, she's right there. I mean, like, literally, the only time she ever has to do damage control is if there are any sort of deficit handstand push-ups. Like, she is a beast, and it is so fun to watch her just go out and destroy stuff.
One of the things I love hearing about her as well is Ben said it. I don't know where he said it, But he was like, oh, she just kind of turns up. Like, there doesn't seem to be any kind of structure to it. Like, it's just like, oh, she's in town. And then it's like, she stays for a while and then she just disappears again. And then she just turns up again. I just love that. Like, that there's just no, and it's like, it's exactly what I imagine working with Laura will be like, where it's just like, you open your door and she's just standing there. And then it's like, how long are you staying for? I don't know. I'll just stay for a while. And then it's like, you wake up one morning, it's like her bed is made perfectly and she's gone.
Out on the pillow.
Right, Chase.
Oh, this is a weird connection, but I'm going with it because of the same thing, but Emma Lawson.
Ah, that's a good one.
Emma Lawson's really season of, she did an open announcement at just turned 17. And we asked her point blank live in front of everybody, are you going to go individual this year? That was the question. And she said yes right there, goes to semifinals, wins it, and then wears the leader jersey at the CrossFit Games as, what is it, the youngest girl to ever wear the leader jersey at the CrossFit Games.
At that open announcement, didn't look particularly impressive. Like, it was, just looked kind of average. Like,
well, they said the event, and I was like, this is so unfair. Like, a deadlift event.
But if you see her performing at an event like that, you're not going to say, I bet she wears a leader jersey. No. Do you know what I mean? Like, she had an incredible season.
Question is, like, could she make the games as an individual coming from the teens? Like, do you take that chance? And the same question is for Olivia Kerstetter going into this year, is that do you take the chance of really falling flat on your face when you have this amazing success and you still have the time, right? She could have gone teen and she decided not to. And she goes out and wins her semifinal and then wears a leader jersey at the CrossFit Games. And Tia Toomey is still competing. It wasn't without her.
Yeah.
Right. And so I thought she had an amazing season that did not expect. Right. I was hoping I would see what I picked for Adler. I did not expect that at all from Emma Lawson.
I honestly think she's the future for CrossFit females on that side, as far as drawing athletes, but drawing non-CrossFitters to CrossFit. I mean, like, there's a lot of athletes that look like their sport. It's big, strong, or they look like runners. They're all super thin, or whatever the look is. And like, her agent and manager are going to be busy because, I mean,
isn't she a rogue athlete now?
She looks like a little superhero.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah. And that, I think, will the strength and the femininity that she has at the youth that she has, like, she's going to be around a long time and she's going to do a lot of really, really great things for CrossFit sport, CrossFit methodology. I mean, everything.
We saw that from Annie Thorisdottir, right? When she
100%
came onto the scene, and then she won twice in a row. She was an amazing spokesperson, for CrossFit in general, not just the sport.
Yeah.
Okay, I went for Lucy Campbell in Jackie Pro. So she had back 9 and probably had, I'd say she'd probably say one of her worst experiences on a competition floor of, like, she basically said all of her nightmares came true of not being able to lift a bar when everybody else can do it and everybody's just watching you and the clock is just ticking down. So she lived through that experience, absolutely awful, and then won the next event and won it impressively. And won it impressively without being talked about. The camera wasn't on her. It was like they got through to the last. I just watched it again like 2 or 3 days ago. Got through towards the end and they were like, oh, Lucy Campbell. Like, it's not as if she was like, everyone was cheering for her and it was this big, like, she literally had like a 5-second moment when she went across the line. It was like, holy shit, like, and it's just, I just think her performance to pick herself up, like, she shat the bed, like, in a really bad way, shat the bed on the back 9, and she, like, wiped all the diarrhea off and just went metaphorical diarrhea. She actually shit herself. But to perform like that after an event like that shows an incredible, like, she obviously has the athleticism. She obviously has the fitness. We saw her at Wadapalooza last year, or this year. We saw her with the rinse and repeat event, like, incredible performances. But I just mean the mental fortitude to come back from your probable worst ever experience at a competition and then to go and win the next event. Like you can't overstate the fortitude there to not walk out being like, oh fuck, here we go again. It's the same floor, the same crowd. This is what am I going to do wrong this time? But like to just go and to dominate an event, I just think it was incredibly impressive what she did. All right, we'll go funny moment. This was really fucking hard to think of anything. And I came up with these fucking categories. So Chase reminded me of him getting cancelled. I was going to put that in, but instead I went for the those opening images of the bike to work event. Everyone standing under the rig for Toast Bar wearing fucking helmets, and it was just like, what is happening? Like nobody looks good in a cycling helmet. And that event just proved it. And it's just there's so many photos even now. Like it was Emma McQuaid's birthday like yesterday, and there's a picture of her like posing in her bike helmet that I just had to put up because anytime I think of her now, I think of that picture. Just like it's just so comically like why it's just, and I know like health and safety and you should always wear a helmet and everything else, but at least let them put them on after they do, or like, you know, like leave them on their butt. Just let them have a moment of like, yeah, we're at the CrossFit Games and we're looking tough, and this
Look at us.
And instead it's like, you know, like, oh shit, did I put my zinc on my nose? You know, like it just like ruin their image immediately. Chase, what did you go for?
Oh, so Bill mentioned this one as a different moment, but I think was a funny moment was when Saxon and Lazar cut the course. And it just like totally just went pandemonium. like I said, us in the broadcast booth were like, what the hell is going on? And everything that ensued from there, for me, just like, I don't even know what to talk about other than they're like, there's no way that's correct. And then all the banter that went behind the scenes and then trying to figure it out and piece it together. And that for me was the funniest moment because poor Boz, right? You have the world waiting for you to fail. Really?
You've
like,
already
it's
put
not
everyone.
Dave.
You've already put everyone in bike helmets.
Exactly. Yeah. You've already put everybody in bike helmets, right? You made the fittest, like physique, beautiful people from male to female across the board, and then you put bike helmets on them. And then to cut the course, and poor Boz, I can imagine like the heart attack he's like, you can't do this in the first event to me, guys. Like you can't. And then they did, but the bounce back was great. But in the moment, it was a little chaotic. But now that you look back on it, it's pretty hilarious start to the
I'd
CrossFit
actually
Games.
also say Saxon cut the course and dragged Lazar with him more so than like Lazar kind of went to have like, well, I mean, if he's done, I must be done.
He's like, I've been together this whole time.
Yeah. That's like, you know, two toddlers with one of them dragging the other one along and be like, no, it's fine. This
I like in that moment, like you're in the gym and you're doing like burpee pull-ups next to somebody and you're like, oh, fuck, dude, what number are we on? I was like, thought you were counting.
Yeah. I think we have 2 left. Yeah, that sounds right. Bill, what did you go for?
What? Which one were you gonna say?
I clicked over the comments and I saw Watt Zombies and
yeah, that's actually it.
That's
That's actually a really good one.
Poor Sean.
Yeah. Dude,
Poor Sean. He was right though.
He was.
Right.
That whole setup,
he knew it.
That whole setup. So again, I was standing right behind you guys when you guys were. I'll pick this one because I think this watching behind the scenes. A lot of the funny stuff is the behind the scenes stuff because it wouldn't be super professional necessarily to throw it up on air. But you guys were broadcasting. Who came up and told Sean?
It was Mariah.
It was, yeah, that's right. It was. So Mariah comes up and says, "Hey,
congratulations,
Tia,"
by the way, she's pregnant."
That's right.
Yeah, congratulations.
Saw that.
You and Tyson.
Saw that. She comes up, tells Sean, "Hey, Tia's gonna retire. She said it's okay for you to announce it." And his face was like, "What? Wait, are you sure? Wait, are you sure? No, I don't want to say, but are you sure?" And then she checked again. Yeah, they said it's fine. Everything's fine. You can totally announce it. Are you sure? Are you sure that I'm supposed to announce it? And then how that whole thing. So he's tripping out.
I backed away from that.
You did. You because you are
hitting me. I was like, nope.
You don't literally. You don't like figuratively do it. That's exactly what you did. You did the Homer Simpson like fade into the bushes, and he does his thing, and it's like, dang, that actually went down. He actually said it. Tia, this is the last time. Blah blah blah. And then the whole like. So we just heard, Tia, that you're going to be, retired. This is your last competition. And she's like, well, that's the question. And then everyone's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. She goes, we'll see. And I was like,
what?
Oh,
and then I look at Sean and I'm watching him and his stomach like hit the floor and he shit all at the same time. And he's like, I just said, fuck.
His face. You
but I asked. It was so fun. I asked. I double checked.
A ghost, or I mean, I don't know this feeling, but I could only assume is like you had a few drinks driving home, and then the cop lights come on. You're like, oh fuck, he wasn't. I don't think he's actually been right, like physically okay this entire time until the pregnancy got announced.
Oh, totally. And so you watch all that stuff, you watch what he's doing, and it was every single person that he talked to. But I checked. I made sure to see
5 times minimum
so funny.
With 5 different sources while he was up there.
But is that like, was it like, yes, I am retiring, this is it, and then went back out and was like, oh man, I really enjoyed that, maybe I could do one more? Or
look,
was
she
it
can
like
make that decision, but that's what happened?
No, I know, but like, what is that what happened? Or was it like, oh, we should tell we should tell Sean to announce that I'm retiring?
Oh, like fuck with him?
No, not even fuck with him, but fuck with everyone. Like, as in, like, I'm sure they like maybe overlooked the fact that it would like cause him like countless sleepless nights and like I'm IBS afterwards.
I don't think those guys have that cool of a relationship where they're like, yeah, hey, I'm gonna mess with you on air, so here's what's gonna be the biggest call you'll ever make in the CrossFit Games next to Matt winning whatever is me retiring. Oh, and then I'm gonna say, well, maybe that's the question, and then I'm gonna say, no, I'm back, I'm not done yet, and then I'm gonna say, oh, I'm pregnant, and oh, by the way, this isn't like we just found out. Like, look at the pictures of me holding my belly. I'm like, oh my, there's no way. Like, if you look at the time frame of those things, it's like, man.
Well, the thing that I think,
Sean,
you know the way that the pitch side or field side reporters ask the event winners questions, and like you're bound to run out of like you're just saying the same thing over and over again. And she wins so many events and so many competitions and everything, she's just saying the same thing over and over again. Maybe she was like, oh, I can set myself up for a home run line, because they're definitely going to ask me about my retirement by telling them I'm retiring and then saying the fucking Wolf of Wall Street, like, I'm not going anywhere. Like, maybe she just wanted a moment of like shocking people or something. Brian, what did you go for?
Well, I had a couple. One was technically not competition related, but it was your 15-minute rant with Travis Mayer on the when you just started talking about your mom having an affair and your relationship with your dad. You guys have to go back. It's like a month ago.
That was Travis's reaction. I should actually I should probably make that into a reel and put it up. I was doing an episode with him and Michael Dalton and Brandon Swan about being dads. And I was kind of like, oh, how will I start? Like, what will I do? And I was like, maybe I'll just talk and then I can cut it out. But I'll like talk really like almost painfully openly in the hope that those guys will be like, wow, okay, we're all opening up, like, I wet the bed when I was 12 or whatever. But I was chatting and I started off, I just kind of mentioned something in passing and Travis like lost his shit, like laughing, like could not stop laughing.
Oh, no.
And I was like, okay, fuck it, this is funny. So then I just went like, I was talking about my own dad, but then I went off on like the whole story of the affair and how we found out and all this kind of stuff. And Michael Dalton was like the straight guy in the sketch of like, he just kept going like, no, you have to let him finish, Travis. Travis was like, what the fuck is happening? I was like crying, laughing, and Dawn was like, no, dude, no, you've got to let him finish. You've got to let him go. No, yeah, that's flattering to be the funniest moment of your season, Brian.
That's funny.
But yeah, that was actually fucking hilarious, to be honest.
And then my other 1B was just at the Zalos games and Taylor Self commentating, and you have such polished commentators like you guys, and then Taylor gets on there, he's like, man, their burpees are shit, look how slow they're going. They gotta go faster.
I was like, I didn't see a petition for that fucking broadcast call.
He wasn't body shaming, bro.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's right.
Come on now.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, I'll just leave that comment out there from Nick.
that was good. That was a good.
That was everyone's favorite moment. That was everyone's favorite comeback from the 2022 season.
Yeah,
to be cancelled.
I was the comeback athlete of the year.
Yeah.
24 hours. That's all it took.
Okay, we've got 3 left. Have we 1, 2? Yes, 3 left. So we've got moment of the year, and then male to watch and female to watch for next year. So what we'll do is we'll do moment of the year first, and then we'll do both male and female, because I need a wee. So we'll do both male and female to watch afterwards then. So Brian, you're starting us off with the moment.
I'll take the easiest one. Rebecca Fusilier, up the Capitol steps. I mean, that's if you're gonna pick one iconic moment of the year, I mean that's it. I mean,
arguably of the history of the games,
I would say, and again, it's she's last place. Like most of the time, it's like, yeah, good job, but just the way that the community rallied around her and followed her up the steps, and just the imagery that you have and what you could do with that to show what CrossFit is in the community. I don't think we've had something like that, some image like that, or some type of way of portraying what the games and how it relates to the CrossFit methodology in the community since I can remember in a long time.
Agreed.
I'm not going to fight with that. I'm going to double down on that. I know skipping you, Bill, but like, I'm just going to throw that's my, any other one would just be like trying to be nice to other people. But like, if you really sit back and think the moment,
you can't fucking do that. You can't say if anyone else picks anything other than this, you're a dick.
No, I'm just saying. It's, like,
Bill
really,
fucking did that with his.
You
can pick Matt Fraser if you want, but you can't preempt other people's choices.
I said you can pick whatever you want. I'll say that.
It's just wrong. It's just wrong. It's fine.
But no, I accept what you're saying.
I'm not going to waste anybody else's time. I can't beat that.
Epic.
Okay, I will pick something different just because that's probably the our most CrossFit Rocky-ish moment from ever. So like, yeah, you're right. It is what it is. I'm gonna say it's not a specific moment like a one action, but the battle between Justin and Ricky and Roman for the top 3 men. Like, again, it was, does Justin really have it to win, or was that kind of a fluky sort of thing? Is Ricky really, is he really back, or what's his story? And, we wanted to see him do something. We saw him get, Wadapalooza, he got sick, and we saw some weird things happen. Dubai was kind of weird. But is he really here? And then Roman, like, we finally get him here to the games. Is he going to be able to perform to what everyone is looking? And the fact that those guys were all battling so close, and we haven't had any close races up to the very end like that, or very many, so the fact that it wasn't just 1 and 2 guys going after it, but all 3 of those guys were in the mix, made it, I think, one of the most, it's always fun to watch people just dominate it, just to see the pure power in that. But it's really fun when every single event, the leaderboard can switch. And I think, that made the men's event, the men's competition, really exciting to see again, was that.
Yeah. I think there's more of the same coming this year too. Like,
yeah.
I think there's
I hope we get that for another 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
And we should.
So I went for Jacqueline Dahlstrom's sandbag just because I'm European. No, but I just think it was epic. Like we've talked about it, but I just thought like it's just one of those like logic defying moments, like a bag that's like 3 times wider than her, like somehow seemed twice as tall as her. You know, like it just didn't. Like you're looking at it being like, no. You know, like you just see it sliding up further. You're like, surely not. Like it was just epic. I just think, you know, I don't think I've ever seen any like a vein come that close to popping out of someone's head. Like it was just outrageous. Like it was like just, you know, you have these moments like the community moments that, you know, those spectacular moments like Rebecca, and you've got those the athletic those impressive like immediately impressive athletic moments where someone does something, you're like, fuck, that was incredible, or whatever. That was so fast, or that was so, but just the determination and the like, fuck you bag that she gave. I just thought it was
that, no, that was great. And it was great. Like, think of like what everybody was doing at home watching it, but what was happening inside the Coliseum to get her there. It was one of the loudest I've ever heard it.
And it was such a long, like, that was such a long rep. I mean, the creeping of that bag,
the anticipation.
Like, so
that was actually when the 2022 season ended and the 2023 season.
right. So we know that like the Capitol, the finish of the Capitol that clip will be on our intro and all that. They should take that last rep of Jackie Dahlstrom, that 30 seconds, and put all the other things like on top of that as it's going, but that's the background of that slow bag just totally getting up and then her finishing up, because you're right. It was, I mean, yes, it was heavy. Yes, it was big, but she did not take no for an answer at all. Like everyone else was like, struggle, and boom, it would come down. She was like, there is no, it's going up. And I mean, I don't know about you guys. Like I was literally, it's like when you watch people swimming like underwater, like deep diving or whatever, you're holding your breath the whole time you're watching it. That's how that rep was. I'm like, what the fuck? She's still time under tension already, guys. Like we're at 30 seconds. Come on. It was
like, I was watching it like moving with her.
Yes.
You ever do that? We're like, come on.
Totally. I went and everybody in.
I went and made a cup of coffee, had a shower, put a wash out, came back.
Right? You totally, it was insane. Yeah.
That was the road duel too. That took that long.
Yeah. In that moment, I did feel quite sorry for John Singleton, because I was like, imagine being in an argument with her. Like, you know, when that sandbag goes up, you're like, I am literally, there's just no point ever arguing with her as a partner again, because it's like, like she's never going to give up. She's not going to be like, yeah, do you know what? It's easier. You're right. You know, it's just like never going to happen. So we go male and female to watch. So I've got a couple, because I do be greedy. So my males to watch, I also have quite a European focus. Shocker. I got Fabian Benito and Moritz Fiebig. I think the two of them, like Moritz had a bit of a shit experience at the games last year. I think he just was injured going into it. He just couldn't give his best. I think the two of them showed in Dubai that they don't fear anyone. They're not afraid of, you know, Brent, anyone else. Don't care. I'm not saying either of them are going to win the games, but I think they're going to be pushing into that top 10 if all goes to plan. I think they're both fit and free, and they're both confident in what they're doing as well. And then on the female side, I've got I think Lucy Campbell's in for a big year. I think she's had time to kind of work on some of the holes in her game. I think she's had, you know, had some great competition moments last year, from the row, swim, run at Wadapalooza, and you know, the events I mentioned earlier on in Jackie Pro and Rinse and Repeat. And I think she's just going to build on those and do well. I think Emma McQuaid and Friova, I think they're in for a pretty big year as well. I think, you know, you mentioned Yami as being the kind of European answer to that. You know, movement specialist who wants everyone to move well, and whatever. Like James Jousey, Emma's coach, fuck me, that guy's obsessed with movement, and like to the smallest possible detail is taken into account. And I think they've been building for a long time, and I think it's all going to bloom. If all goes to plan, it's all going to bloom in Madison. She's had some, I mean, like, she did so well at Rogue last year, and she was fucked going into it, and she did so well. Same thing Wadapalooza, she was fucked going into it, and she won the fucking thing. Do you know what I think? Like, she has a big year coming coming this year.
I like those. Is it my turn?
Yes.
Men. Okay, I'm going to go off, not really off the reservation, but a trend, I would say a male trend, a successful athlete trend where they've missed, been on the cusp, and they get an opportunity. And then once those gates open, they just totally take over. And I'm really curious to see what Nick Matthew does with that game's opportunity, because he's been so close. And then he had, you go out there and win a couple events at the CrossFit Games in their first year, right? That dude has a lot of, I would say, elite skill sets. I mean, his back squat and his gymnastics are right up there, if not the best that we've seen on the male side. And when you get the confidence of the CrossFit Games and finally breaking through, you've seen some athletes just like take that and take off. So I'm curious to see if Nick Matthew becomes one of those athletes. And then this one's a little bit of a punt, but I'm really curious to see if this is the fix, is to see what Haley Adams does with her new off-season training and brings that to a new season. And the question for me is, and it's kind of the same thing with Laura Horvath, is like, hey, listen, you may never be good at deficit handstand push-ups ever. So just get great, like top echelon at everything else. Like, you're going to have to pull a rogue to win something, right? You're just going to have to go out there and win multiple events and take your L. For Haley, I'm curious, is all of this focus in the off season towards strength going to take away anything that kept her in the top 5 over the last couple of years? So for just her own personal experiment, I'm fascinated to see what happens with Haley Adams this year.
Those are good ones. Those are real good ones. Mine for the men. It's really interesting when an athlete gets a coach, what they do the first year, because there's a lot of experimentation, like to see how they work, how they jive, what things did they switch? Was it a positive? Was it a negative? And if that athlete decides to jump ship after that first year, if nothing worked. With the pass that Ricky has had, and him just jumping in with Justin Kotler, and they had, I think, a really good year. And it was really interesting talking to Justin throughout the year about, how he felt about, what Ricky did at Dubai and before, and then, knowing that he was pulling out for different events and deciding to pull out for different events or to hop in for different events, and then what they did at the games, and, did Alpaca really affect his placing? I know that they were really hoping for the rope climbs, and that was one of the things that they were looking forward to with that event. But I want to see what now they aren't new athlete and coach. Now they've established that relationship, so they don't have to establish that anymore. Are they able to really use that as a springboard to get Ricky to where he wants to be? I think that's going to be really interesting to see. The other person that I'm really interested to watch is going to be Emma Lawson. I mean, to be that young and have that much success, granted, Mal O'Brien was also, she's obviously on the younger side too. But to see her be able to still be a teen athlete, jump into the individual and do what she was able to do. I mean, you get these young athletes like every single year. It's not okay, I've gotten a little bit better, I got a 10-pound increase. You are now maturing mentally and physically, and it's incremental growth or exponential growth as you go from year to year for these younger athletes. So I'm really excited to see what she can do, because I don't think that what she doesn't have the pressure that Mal O'Brien has. And so when you don't have that extra pressure of the next Tia, now you're not worried about that. And it's, I mean, there's something, I don't want to say she's the underdog, but there's something empowering about having nothing to lose. I mean, if she doesn't do really, really well, I don't think people are going to be like, well, yep, she's out. For her, she's got, if it's a bad year, I mean, 3 years from now, she's going to be 20. I mean, or 21. Like, come on. Like, she's plenty of time to master all the things that she needs to master. So I think like this next year, as a true quote unquote open competitor, age-wise, is going to be interesting to see what she can do.
This is Chase's best input of the whole show these last 2 minutes. Haley finishes ahead of Mal in 2023. Remember this comment. I mean, we will remember the comment, but it's like so much has to happen for that to happen. I mean, you're looking at, okay, Haley has to have like it's like someone said earlier on, Bruce said earlier on, would it be enough? Like, it's not a lot of time to make up strength. Like, that's a very valid comment. Like, it's a very short period of time not to undo, but to fix an awful lot of problems that were there. And it's not like going running. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a lot harder to build strength, and it takes a lot more time to build strength than it does to just get like fit at running or whatever.
Right.
And you're also relying on not only Haley doing really well and shoring up all these weaknesses, you're also relying on Mal like probably shitting the bed on a few workouts in order to leave a gap wide enough for Haley to finish ahead. But we will remember.
Haley doesn't have to be the strongest though, right? Like,
no, but she has to be significantly stronger.
She's behind the bell curve.
Yeah.
And even just marginal gains will move her up, you know, from, let's say, 24th to 16th, 17th in a couple of these events. That puts her right there in that last day.
The downside is that Mal doesn't have enough of the weaknesses where she's going to have one of those behind the bell, you know, positions. She's strong. She's fast. I mean, granted, Haley has that motor, and she loves those long, grindy events, and she'll do well at those as she needs to. But the problem is that Mal doesn't get knocked down into 18th place on those. You know, she'll be 8th. And that's the hard part. So, I mean, those two have a battle. I think what's really interesting was after the games, started seeing those two doing some stuff together. You know, they were kind of training together, and I'm like, and that's why everyone, you know, was wondering, you know, where's Haley going to go? What's she going to do as far as her coaching and stuff like that? Is she going to go to HWPO and do all that? So it was really interesting watching those two hang out, I guess.
Yeah, they're best friends. So
yeah,
I mean,
it's a trip.
Yeah.
That's my top 3. Not in that order, but that's my top 3. I reckon it'd be Laura, and then Mal, and then Annie, I think. Anyway, sorry, I don't know who John is. John must be a pretty fit woman. Oh no, she's replying. Am I joking? Wow, that is bad head.
Yes, you should have seen the shit that this one just laid out there.
Did you see that time that Boz was on and one of my kids took shit and I had to go up? He sat there for like 12 minutes in just pure silence, just waiting and waiting. And I came back and he's like, "Is everything okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, not really."
What do you want to go do?
I want to go.
Say it out loud.
I want to go watch a movie with Dylan.
You want to go watch a movie with Dylan? Okay, can you say goodbye to everybody?
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. She's cute. Right. Where are we? Brian.
Yeah. So on the men's side, I think the storyline I want to see is Sam Quant and Jeff Adler, if they can break onto the podium. Rogue was, or the games for Quant was good. And then Adler, you know, both the games and Rogue. I mean, you could argue that Adler was one lift away from winning Rogue. So I really want to see if those two guys can get on the podium, especially with Quant having maybe a more stable year than he has in the last couple of years, just with HWPO the whole time. So that one will be interesting. I do think it'll be interesting to see if Jack Farlow can break into the games this year. So I'm kind of watching him.
He's going out with Emma Lawson, isn't he?
He is. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, you know, I think he kind of took some on the chin at Rogue, you know, going up against some of the best. But
I don't think he was there on a fluke.
No, I mean, again, if he goes up against those guys and finishes 19th at the games, I think everybody would be saying, "Hey, that's pretty good for for him.
Yeah.
So that's who I'm watching. On the women's side, I think watching to see if Sarah Sigmund's daughter, Catherine David's daughter, and Jamie Simmons can get back to the games. I think that's kind of what the storyline I'd like to watch and see unfold.
Yeah, I saw earlier on someone commented and said Catherine has struggled to make it to the top 10. I mean, she didn't even make it to the fucking games last year, so she has quite a substantial hurdle to overcome first. And it's not like she's working with a slouch last year. You know, like Yami knows his shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I think that is a storyline. And there was a lot of talk of, did Sarah come back too soon? Like, you know, that there's all that kind of talk.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I thought that was in my head.
But yeah, there's a lot of they're interesting storylines for sure.
And then for a potential rookie to watch is Chloe Wilson. So she's been to the regionals 3 times, semifinals the last 2 years, just missed out.
She's with Jump Ship, is it?
She's with Jump Ship now.
Yeah.
I think if there's one that, you know, I was going to pick somebody to watch to see if they can make that leap to the games and advance their career, I would say that's who I would watch.
Yeah. Now, obviously, we're not saying, I just see someone talking about Justin there. We're not saying that any of these people are going to win, you know, necessarily. We're just talking about like interesting people that might be worth looking at throughout the year. And obviously it's all hypothetical because all the people we mentioned, it seems unlikely, but all the people we mentioned might like get injured during the Open, or might just, and then you can look back on this in April and be like, those guys are fucking idiots, they don't know what they're talking about. But yeah, no, I think I'm excited for it. I think fuck it, we'll do that. I've given my 3 podium. I've said it's going to be Laura, then Mal, then Annie, or maybe Emma Lawson. That's my top 3 on the women. And I think the men's podium is going to be the same, but I think there might be a shuffle. I think it might be Roman, then Justin, then Ricky.
Ooh.
I think. Does anyone else want to put their balls on the table and pick?
Oh, damn. Picking podiums now? Laura Mal.
Who's Laura Mal?
Laura Mal.
Laura Mal.
The women. Laura Mal and damn.
Danielle.
Danielle?
I think so.
Yeah. Is that yours, Laura Man?
Yeah.
I'm terrible at this.
On the women, I'd go that same order.
Laura Mal and Danielle.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of the things that does scare me, is like excite me maybe, is how happy Danielle Brandon looks, because I kind of think that's always a recipe for like she's gonna fuck shit up. Like she's gonna perform better than people expect her to perform, and she's going to be more capable than people expect her to be. I think when she's like a bit unsure and seems a bit like kind of grumpy or moody or whatever, she tends to just kind of fall short a little bit of what people's expectations of her are. But anytime I've seen her really happy and satisfied going into an event, and she has seemed really happy and satisfied since just moving to Florida. So that's a long time to be in a good mental space in the lead of, like, basically her entire off season in a positive mental space going into a season is, I think, a lot of female athletes should be a bit worried.
She has games appearances, but this past year was her first year that was normal.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, 2019 was, she didn't get to compete the whole weekend. 2020 is what it was. 2021, go segregate her and put her in her little corner.
All right. I have my third.
We have our male podium is done. There's going to be there's going to be 6 people on the podium, and they're all Colton.
With standardized programming, it might be tough, depending on which region you're in. I'll say Laura Mal, and my hot take is Brooke Wells. Right. Reason being, she got 5th last year that nobody fucking talks about. Coming off Tommy John surgery. And now that Tia is out of the picture, all the focus and attention is now going to go to her.
Well,
She
she's in
lost
the
her
wrong.
training
She's in the
partner.
wrong country. They're
Yeah.
in Australia, so there's no fuck all attention going to her.
Yeah, but it's even still like all of it, everything,
Yeah.
whether in person, all eyes and all attention. Like she's it.
She's the proven athlete.
She's the proven athlete now.
There's a documentary coming out about her, isn't there? Like about her
Probably.
comeback, I think.
There better be. Like,
Yeah.
what she did last year.
Does anybody think Justin will be beaten?
No.
Man.
No.
Roman with a good, solid, like non-tumultuous year. He only lost by what, 27, 37 points last year?
I'm going to say that Justin does not win.
You're just trying to throw a wrench in the mix down there. Look at you.
I think
if you throw enough shit at a wall,
the reason
you can go
being
back
is
and hunt out this clip.
It was close this past year, and he didn't win an event. You have Roman, who's right on his heels. I don't think Ricky is on the podium again this year. I think he takes a step back. But I think Adler or Quant go in there. So I'd put it between Roman and I'd probably say Adler to take it next year.
Say Roman, Justin, Adler.
I can see that. Yeah.
I'll just put mine out there then.
Yeah.
I'll say I had Laura, Mal, Brooke, Roman, Justin.
See, I switched them. I must have been convincing enough.
What did you say, Roman? What did you say, Roman?
Roman, Justin, and Adler.
Are you going Adler as well, Chase?
Yeah.
Nobody is taking Ricky off the podium. I don't give a fuck. Like he strikes me as the type
I'm
guy.
rooting for him. Like I mean,
like
to see him do it again, but you never know.
I know I said that like Roman.
This field is so.
Roman would die
hard.
for points. Ricky would fucking kill for points. Like he just has that. He has something that I don't think any other athlete on the male side has.
Yeah,
I don't even know what, it's not even a quantifiable thing. It's not like, it's not just grit. It's not just determination.
Yeah.
It's not just like, I don't know, like a kill or be killed kind of thing. Like, but it's just, there's just something about him that's like, I don't know how to describe the thing that he has. It's just that kind of X factor of like, he has it in him to just get a point, even if there isn't a fucking point available, he'll find it just to get back to like, I just 4 years of being bitter and on the outside.
Yeah, I see
Do you know, I
strength, like his greatest strength can also be his greatest weakness.
Yeah, he
Like,
can
he'll do
explode or
something
implode.
Jump to get that
Right.
point.
Right.
Right. Like, yeah, he does. And like he'll fight for it till the death. And sometimes he does that. He did that during Alpaca. He went too hard and blew up at the end, like trying to kill for points, and it ended up like biting him. So yes, like if channeled right, like then you look at Justin, is like, focus this. If you can focus this, yes, 100%. Like he has a gear and I mean, what do you think of like a reason that's hard to best than anybody? Right.
That's why I think that like seeing those two guys, Ricky and Justin, in there next year, that's why I think that this next year is going to be big to see what they can do. I don't think the top three will switch. I think it'll be Justin. I just don't think, even though Justin didn't win any events, and I think that's what makes it scarier for the rest of the field, is because he didn't win any. He was right in there in all of them. And if he does win a couple, then it's like, man, the other, like with Roman, what did he win? 3?
Something like that. He's just not bad at anything.
Justin, I know.
Yes.
He's not bad enough for people to creep
not even,
up
like,
on him, I think
marginal at
is
some
the
things.
issue. And he doesn't, like when you watch him and you listen to him and you talk to him, he's still having fun. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't, I don't see pressure on him. I don't see the.
Although you say that, but I talked to Kotler on a live during the games, and he was.
I'm talking Justin. I'm not talking Ricky.
No,
Ricky.
I know, but Kotler said that he noticed a change in Justin from 2021 Justin
Mm.
and 2022 Justin.
Huh.
But 2021 Justin was going around and was like, hey guys, you know, like chatting to everyone like in the corral area or, you know, whatever. And 2022, he was like, Justin said it was like Fraser. It was like, get the fuck away from me. Like just, you know, zoned in, wouldn't talk to anyone, would only talk to Nefer. Or, you know, probably talking to Eddie and stuff as well. But like was like just did the event, was on his own, wasn't mixing with other people. So obviously he's obviously dialing in those last little percentages now where it's like,
I think you
well,
have
like
to.
what's
Yeah.
that one thing that I'm missing that I can add something to? And I think,
I'm sure
know,
Adam.
But what does he focus on though? Like he's not bad at anything, right? Roman knows what he needs to work on.
Mhm.
yeah.
You know, all these other guys know like they have their one weakness, I would say.
But just because you don't have a weakness to work on doesn't mean that what you're doing isn't working. You know what I mean?
It's
Like
going to come down to what Nefer can do with him to
Right.
find that area that he can push from a 5th place to a 1st place.
right.
Or maybe he'll go soft when he has all his fucking 4 Jeeps and his maybe he'll go pudgy. Maybe he'll just like
you never know.
he
You never
loses
know.
edge. I might cut that bit out. Oh fuck, it's live. No, listen, thanks guys. Bill and Chase, it's always great to have you on
It was awesome.
these annual
My new favorite
recaps.
tradition.
Totally.
Brian, it's been great to bring you into the fold. I'm not going to do this every
It's
year.
actually why I came back to hope to get invited to this.
I'm not going to do this every year where every year I add in an extra person. They just get out of hand really quickly. But no, I appreciate you guys taking the time out. It's been great to get to catch up and get to cover everything. Everyone that's commenting and watching and everything, thanks. I really appreciate it. It never fails to blow my mind that more than just my wife would watch this. So it's really nice.
I didn't see your comment unless
No, she's shy. She actually literally, I swear to God, literally just text when you said I didn't see her comment. But no, thanks. It's been great. I think like, you know, there's a few things that we talked about there that as we were talking about them, I was like, God, I can't fucking wait for it to just get going again. Where we were talking about Wadapalooza, and I was like, Wadapalooza is going to shit all over every competition this year with this new format, with the
Teams.
2 separate days. Every time I see a team announced, I'm like, oh, well, they're going to win it. Then another team comes out, I'm like, oh, well, they're going to win it. It's going to be epic. I think the team games season is going to be epic this year. I think the momentum is going to start with the teams at Wadapalooza, and it's going to carry on to announcements of like, oh fuck, they're on a team, and like they've kind of opened the door a bit for that with the new rules and stuff. So there's so fucking much to look forward to. I cannot wait for it to get going. But thank you. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna need a wee, and I have to go home to my wife and kids. Thanks. Have a nice New Year's.
Yeah. Happy New Year, everyone.
That's right. Same to you
Chase,
guys.
go and rescue your kids from whatever shit you've got them watching.
Yeah.
Actually, I highly recommend Bluey. And it's not.
Oh, we started Bluey.
Bluey is so fucking good. I would watch Bluey
So-
on my own, like with no kids. Gladly.
I like it. I like it. The like the parenting relationship with the kids. We
There's
actually
a few.
started
There's one episode where there's a Instagram page. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like this guy shares like bits that are just for us, like they'll go over the kids' heads. But there's a few bits like there's the dad is talking to another dad at the park, and it's only when you watch it back because you're so focused on what the kid is doing. But the dad is talking, being like, well, you know, it's just such a finite decision. I mean, she's not really sure. I just want to get it done. But she's like, oh, what if we want another one? And so he's always talking about how there's loads of it like that. It's a brilliant show.
Yeah.
It's a
No,
brilliant show.
I enjoy it. We took the episode where if Bluey interrupts the parents, like they told him, it's like you got to put your hand like on an arm or something.
Yeah.
And then just acknowledge it. Like, so we started that. It's been awesome. Really cool.
Yeah, my daughter started being like, oh, I don't want to go to bed and whatever. And there's an episode where one of their cousins doesn't go to bed, and he's honestly like a drunk, like they portray him as a drunk adult, like. And I was like, oh, you remember Muffin wouldn't go to bed, and he was in really bad form the next day. And then sure enough, she's like, yeah, you know what, you've sold me. Blue's got a point. So yeah, that's parenting hack. But listen, thanks guys. Take it easy.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
New Year's. And yeah, sure, we'll stay in touch anyway.
Well, thanks, guys.